It's okay. We're going to start with the backstory. Will came from New Jersey, New York, or wherever he came from today. Wendy came from Nantucket. And ML's been here. She came from Shaker. So we thought we would surprise Mary Lynn and Wendy with Will, and we did, and it was great. And they agreed to tell you about their senior project and the letter W.
Wendy and ML, would you like to tell them about?
Can I tell the first part of the story, which I don't remember as much about the W, but I do remember the first part when we were planning the senior project. I remember being in a room like this with all these people asking us all these questions, and they're like, what are you going to do if one of you breaks your leg? And what are you going to do if somebody gets sick? And
well, tell them what the project was.
All these things. We spent 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks looking for a new outdoor leadership site because a tornado had gone through the old site. So what we were trying to do was to find a new area within reasonable driving distance that was surrounded by roads that people could then do a trek to. Anyway, we were trying to find a new area that wasn't torn up by the tornadoes. So we had 3 or 4 different areas that we went to. Yes. So each week we went to a different area in the Alleghenies. We went out, we provisioned ourselves. But it was the 3 of us. There was no other, we drove there. There was no other adult. I'm not sure if this could happen today. I remember a scenario where all these people were asking us, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if this happens, if this happens? And we were like, well, finally, clearly we're not going to make it. Nothing bad happened. We were very good. We were very good.
It's a little somewhat incredible to think. And the questions would get directed, well, what happens if the bear crashes through the middle of camp, and what are you going to do, Will, to, Wendy and all are there. I'm like, well, I'm counting on them to defend me. But the long and short of it was we had a great time. This is in the Allegheny National Forest, which is about a 4.5-hour drive from here. And
where had the tornado hit?
It had cut right through the middle of the Allegheny National Forest, and it was expected to be a bad tornado, but it was much worse than expected. So literally we went back to the site after it had hit, and there were trees stacked 20, 30 feet high.
Some of it was upside down.
Unbelievable. And what's more disquieting is the notion that we had camped there so many times. Had we just gotten the timing wrong, it would have been a different kind of a well trip. So happily, we didn't have that experience. So we went there, and we each took on a different task. I know I was supposed to keep track of flora and fauna. I don't know if you remember this. Anyway, we were all supposed to do different things, and this is a 12-week project.
No.
Was it?
No.
6 weeks. 6 week project? We were like 4.
She was 12 minutes.
Anyway, whatever it was a lot of fun, and we actually found a new spot, and that was the objective. But part of our responsibility, we felt while we were there, and this was, I think, Wendy's idea, but actually it's not.
You're throwing me under the bus, but that's okay. It's all right. My pictures.
We felt we had to leave some marker of our journey to let them know that we explored all these different areas. And the most promising one, we carved a W in the tree that was going to be the central point around which all of these different campsites and students would be located. But to ensure that we could draw the whole crowd of OL people there, we buried a bottle of whiskey at the base of the tree. And we came back.
The drinking age was 19. That was full. We couldn't have drunk it.
No, not each time. Although,
12, 14, 18.
We thought one time was a big deal. That goes to show you, we just didn't have it all figured out. We did. We buried the bottle, and sure enough, we told them the location on a map, much like buried treasure. And then Bruce Carr and Peter went back and found it and reported that that it was still there. And I know that they buried it again and didn't touch it.
I don't believe that.
The stories changed over 30 years. So.
My memory. All
I'll
that
add
water.
ML said she sat around the table with people asking questions. You should have heard the questions that Will got from his male classmates about this.
Oh.
You're going with Wendy and Hannah camping, just the three of you, for how long? Sleeping in a station wagon?
They didn't know the conversation Peter had with me before I went out. And that conversation, you know, whatever misguided ambition I may have had back in my youth, he put that one. All I wanted to do, he said, "You're going to bring him home alive." And I thought, oh my God. You know, so I stopped getting nervous and having nightmares about that at the age of 25. So I was glad
Well, you've done it, and you've done good. Yeah. Three of the best leaders I've ever had.
Wait, what?
Yeah. What?
I said what? Three of
So
them.
here's what we'd like to do tonight. You've done your homework, I know you guys. I'm going to start with Wendy. Thanks for coming
Thanks
from
for having
Alice
me.
Island. And let me throw in a recommendation there. Wendy, one of the books Wendy recommended is Story Life of A.J.
AJ Fickery,
It's
yeah.
absolutely wonderful.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like
Absolutely wonderful.
that. Where are these coming from? Holy cannoli.
That was Ward's night, probably, right?
What?
You guys received some sexy work.
That was the OR.
This is mortifying. We didn't know it was going to be like a roast. Oh my God, Andrea.
So what I'd like to do tonight is this. We invited Lynn Quintrell, who owns Apple Tree Book on Cedar Hill, to sort of be the sounding board for Wendy and to talk to us also about the same subject. I'd like them to start, I've asked them to start by saying how they got into the book business and what's good about it and what's hard about it. And they can talk as little or as much as they want. And then it's all, you guys know, you veterans know, it's all up to you for questions. It's a conversation, it's relaxed. If you want to get up and get another glass or a plate, do so, don't worry about it. Ladies and gentlemen, Wendy Morton Hudson.
Oh. Yeah. I'm going to stand up for a second, and we'll all be casual, but I just couldn't see everybody over there. I have to say, like, one of my favorite books is Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, and then it's got this concept of a cuirass, which are like the people that you go through your life with for years and years. And I've got like 4/8 of my entire cuirass in my life. Like, right? It's weird. This is really, really, really creepy. I mean, I didn't know Mary Smith, another very dear friend, and to have Will here, that's just a cool treat. So I'm not going to be able to remember anything I ever say because now I'm overwhelmed with you fine people. I think it's a little bit like I just had an interesting thought. All the themes that I've carried through my life now are tracing back, including the fact that my husband's a distiller on Nantucket. Like we live on Nantucket. Maybe it had something to do with whiskey. I don't know. I never thought about it, you know. But absolutely, my love of reading and just the importance of literature is all due, to one man right here. And I'm not the only person in the Hawken community that would say that, I know. So thank you, Peter. It's just a lifelong mentor, and I'm so grateful to know you. And, it was classes like, I remember you having, when we were in Bible class, and Peter would say, like, there's kids that don't even remember they took this class. And we're like, no, it's so meaningful. And to have somebody that was teaching, transcendentalists and, like Billy Budd through the lens of Vietnam and military, it was just so powerful. And I think, it just meant everything to me. So leading on from bioethics class, which was the best class I probably ever had, was I went on to Smith College, became a philosophy major to do ethics. And then but all along I was just looking for the good life. Like, what is a good life? What's a good life to lead, And that led me to Nantucket. It was the 80s, we graduated from college in 1990. And, I always thought I'm going to go back to law school. I'm going to go back and do this other stuff. But in the meantime, my grandparents were sailors, and I ended up on Nantucket. So Mary Lynn and I went to Nantucket together, and we became farmers on a little farm, $6 an hour. She had the wisdom to leave. Oh yeah, we were roommates at Bartlett's farm. Yep, on Nantucket, and I've got a lot of Nantucket people in the room too, which is also like kind of crazy. But it's so cool, and I mean, it feels like it was yesterday, you know, that we went off and did that, and now time passes. But you know, I ended up staying, met my husband. We started a brewery on Nantucket in 1995. Same year I started working at the bookstore. And you know, time passes. I got to buy the bookstore. My dream came totally true at an early age. Yeah, this is Bookworks. Isn't that just the cutest?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I grew up in Novelty, went to West G through 9th grade, and then came to Hawken in 10th, and I knew what I was getting every day. And I'm so grateful. But all my free time, we would be at Fireside Bookshop or the Chagrin Library, like all the time. I didn't really make it into Heights until I met Mary. So I didn't make it to Apple Tree as much, but I'm sorry.
I wasn't there.
Okay, yeah. I'm safe. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah. And we're really lucky on the island. So I ended up taking over Mitchell's Book Corner in 2012, so 4 years ago. And it's supported by a philanthropist, Wendy Schmidt from Google. And so there's this whole, like, you know, group of people on Nantucket. It's such an interesting place because there's a lot of wealth and the seasonality. So you're trying to sort of balance all that. And I'm a Gemini and I like all the extremes. And so that works for me, you know, the busy season and then the quiet season. But yeah, it's been a struggle. So in the meantime, like, I've got this beer business going on. We sell tons of beer, and that's cool and fun, and you know, and then but really books are where my heart lies, and being an independent bookseller, you go in waves. And the readings that we chose, you know, I kind of, maybe you can sense the past 5 years, you know, the threat that we felt from ebooks. Like, I thought, oh my God, this business is tanking. What am I doing in this? This is you know, a dinosaur, you know, buggy whips and whale oil in the digital age. But it's so happily that's all turned around, and you know, I don't know if anyone's interested in that piece of the topic. I don't know if people are interested in, like a little bit of, you know, like the resurgence of independent bookstores. It's an exciting time. I've been really involved with them, and so is Lynn with the American Booksellers Association. Is a great trade organization for our, you know, independents across the country, and we're a tight knit group because we really try to share, you know, best practices and new cool things, and what you know, from as small as what was the best event you did in your store to something big, like, you know, whatever it could be. So that's been hugely rewarding to me, to be part of something that's national, even though I'm stuck on the little island and I don't get to come home to Cleveland quite enough. So thanks again. And it's a life that I just absolutely value more and more as the years pass. And I guess maybe we should just let Lynn talk a little bit about that and then have questions from everybody. Does that sound good? I did have like one question. I just kind of wondered, like, how many people read? I mean, probably this crowd, you read a lot. Fair to say. All right, yeah, everyone's nodding. Okay, so that's a dumb question. Does anybody like to read on ebooks more than physical books? Again, you probably wouldn't admit it or show up. Okay. Yeah. Oh, all right. Excellent. See, that's okay. We need some innovation in this room, so you know, it's good to have this guy, Gwen. Yeah. What I found is it's really about both. So I didn't want any of like the conversations about Amazon or conversations about ebooks to be off-putting, or to think that we shouldn't talk about that. You shouldn't, you know, like it's a big world. I think the pie has just grown in the past years in a way that's wonderful. So that was my disclaimer. Just like, don't guard your comments and thoughts, because it's, you know, it's all a big world. So let me stop talking.
No, go ahead.
I know you
have, though, is if there's anyone out there who'd like to be my philanthropist, I would really welcome that. That would be great. My story's a little different. I'm going to sit down because I'm more comfortable sitting, if that's okay. My story's a little different. It was never my dream to own a bookstore. As much as I was always a big reader and I loved reading as a kid, I don't think it was one of those things I like aspired to, like, oh, if I could own a bookstore someday. I fell into it, quite honestly. I went to work for the previous owner about 8 years ago. Well, actually 10 years ago now. I started out very part-time, and as her health declined and her age increased, it became abundantly clear that she needed more help. So I went from part-time almost into full-time. And then one day she just decided, that's it, she's done, out, finished. So what's been interesting for me is the journey from part-time, full-time employee to owner, which is a very, very different perspective than what I started out with. I wish I had that awesome building with the toadstools and the children's department like you have. My biggest challenge in this storefront, and thank you whoever took this photo, it's more of a current photo than I've seen other groups presented with. So thank you, it's not an old one. We did put a banner up which I don't think it's legal in Cleveland Heights, but you know, it's effective. These people can tell where we are. Nobody could tell where we were in the block. It's been a very interesting experience that way. And the new signage on the door, so that was important. And we had to redo the logo, we had to redo the website. I mean, I might as well have started from scratch, except for amazing customer base. We have so many great customers in Cleveland Heights that have been loyal for years, and without them, this would be really tough. I don't know how anyone starts a new bookstore nowadays. I guess you can go to ABA and Winter Institute and find out how to do it, but it's such a challenge. And I guess I feel, and I don't know how you feel, Wendy, but the biggest challenge I think I face in my store is internet anything. I mean, brick and mortar stores are really having a hard time. I don't care if you're selling shoes, handbags, clothes. The internet is our biggest competitor. I'm not worried about Barnes & Noble because, and if anybody here works at Barnes & Noble, I'm sorry to say this, but most of the people don't know anything about books. I mean, you go in there and you ask them for suggestions and they look at you like, I don't even know where to find it, let alone what it is. So I don't really look at the big box store as my big threat. For me, the bigger threat is online. But I think that's true for all of small America. I mean, all of small business in America has this problem to deal with. So the question is, how do you make yourself different? So I'm working on that. I've only owned the store 2 years, so distinguishing myself from my 2 nearby competitors, and you don't have a competitor on the island, right?
Right.
Right. I do.
Bottom.
Bottom, yeah.
I do, around the corner. So I have one in Cleveland Heights. They do an amazing job on poetry and local stuff. And then there's one in Shaker, or maybe it's the city of Cleveland, I'm not exactly sure where, on Larchmere, which is just, they're used in secondhand. I am not any of that. I'm only new books. So trying to distinguish myself amidst the local competition, I think, has been my big challenge since I bought this. So I will say, I'm going to talk a little bit and then I'll let Wendy take it from here. My biggest challenges have been how to juggle it all with just very little staff. I don't know how many staff you have.
Too many right now. Yeah, I mean, in the summertime, it's probably about 18, and
oh my God.
This time of year it's 6. Well, 2 stores. No,
Yeah,
it's probably more.
yeah.
It's probably more like 22. Yeah.
Well, we're a grand total of 5, and that I have one person who's almost full-time, and myself who's more than full-time, and my poor husband, who some of you I think know, Luke. He's the social media guy. He's the accounting department. You know, he's kind of had to morph into more jobs, I think, with this than he ever anticipated. So my big challenge is how to handle it all, keep my payroll sort of in line so that we can make some money. My goal was to be profitable because the business was never profitable. And I knew that when I bought it. So that was a big challenge. And I said, okay, my goal is to be profitable. And I can say, I'm there.
Good. That's good. Yeah. You'll be about 2% is like the goal for an independent bookstore. If you can make 2%, then you're doing great.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been an interesting challenge, and now the question is how to grow it. If I can grow it, that in order to continue to be there and offer what I think the community is looking for, it's how to grow it. So that'll be my big challenge. But wearing multiple hats has been really hard in the last 2 years. I've learned a whole lot. I wish I'd had Wendy to turn to for advice.
Now you do, man.
Yeah, don't worry, I know now.
I know. Give me my card.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not on the same scale by any imagination, but we're still there after 41 years. So my goal is so can continue for 42, 43, 44.
How do you market yourself?
That's tricky.
Yeah.
It's really tricky. Social media for us has been a really big thing. We use that a lot. We have a newsletter too. I have a graphic designer that does stuff too that we put up all over the place. It's a challenge. Basically, I think our biggest challenge is how to affiliate with groups and how to collaborate with different groups in town will be huge. So that's a major piece.
One thing that Lynn does, when I was in her store earlier today, and I found out, I think I tucked the postcard in here, maybe I won't be able to find it. Oh, I did find it.
Oh,
Books in a bar.
I'm
like, why haven't I ever done this? Books in a bar. So, look at your bar. Her marketing's working. I thought that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
You can pass it down.
Just like paint.
Somebody after my own heart. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting to think. Like my other hobby is definitely
If
in
anybody's
planning.
interested, help
I
yourself.
love one.
And it's interesting that, that what Lynn talks about right away is, like trying to be profitable and small business and how you have to do everything yourself. And it wasn't something that I feel like I was, growing up in Cleveland in the suburbs and my dad worked, I wasn't sure what he did and all this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, cool, wow. This just came out last week. I was in Denver at the Winter Institute. Yeah, it just came out, so it was too late to add to the homework, but it's really very thought-provoking data that just was released about the impact, no matter what you think about online stores, and this is only regarding Amazon, so they estimate that's about a third, but the impact on both sales tax, which has been a focus for a long time, but now what they're really starting to see is the loss of retail space, which is intuitively but now it's real, and how much. And the real way that hits the state is at the property tax level. In Massachusetts, so I'm on the Retailers Association of Massachusetts and our Planning and Economic Development Committee and these kinds of things. And now I've got something real to talk about because our governor just last week ruled that retailers in Massachusetts, we have to pay time and a half on Sundays, which is why you see things not open all that much on Sunday. Just realize, what's the word, ruled that Amazon is not a retailer in Massachusetts, and so they don't have to comply at their warehouse. They don't have to comply with the time and a half. And that kind of thing, like that just gets me so mad because it's like,
so wrong.
it's so
Right.
wrong. It's so
like
wrong.
separate rules for separate entities.
Right.
And a reverse incentive system, like they should be done, the government and taxes, everything, the structure should be there to support people that are employing people in little stores and keeping a community and all those fine things. So I don't want to be on too much of a high horse, but I do think this bears thought, and especially at the policy level, it's really, really crucial. So I saw Jeff had a hand up. Okay.
I have a couple of thoughts. As a summer resident of Nantucket, I know that it's two communities really. The year-round community, roughly 12,000 people, and the summer community is somewhere between 50,000 and 60,000 people. So I think for independent bookstores to survive in this environment, in this era, they have to foster a sense of community. And I host a book club. I know there are a lot of book clubs around the Cleveland area. And if booksellers can engage book clubs, that's a good way.
I'd love to have you. I don't have the space right now. That's the problem.
Well, not necessarily to host their meetings, but to work with them in some way.
Call me. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, I know. But I was a question for Wendy. I know that in Nantucket, like several other places, all the residents read the same book during a few months of the winter.
This is kind of
My
true.
question is, did you start that? And the second question is, how do they get together to discuss it? Because they're all reading it.
Oh, the One Book, One Island. Is that what you're referring to?
Island,
Yeah,
right.
One Book, One Island. That was started, I think, I don't remember if it was Seattle that was the first place that did it. A good long time ago, like cities will do a One Book, One Community kind of program. I think it was Seattle too. It was a while back.
Yeah.
And I don't hear about that as much. I don't know if there is, I don't know if Seattle still
Did you
does it, for
start in
example.
Nantucket?
Oh, I tried. I did a book called The Big House, which by George Cole, is an awesome book. It's a great book. It's about, like a family summer home and trying to keep it through the generations when the economics are challenging. And it happened to be about 4 houses down from my parents' house on the Cape. So I saw that. I was like, hey, I know that house. So I was like, this is so important. Everyone on Nantucket would like it. But I didn't have the savvy. This was probably 2002. And I don't know when that came out for. Anyway, so I did it poorly is the bottom line. And I tried to do too much myself, like I usually do. And it didn't work. I didn't build the community around it. Then the library got into that kind of thing. And they just, they're doing a much better job, much like the Vineyard had done. I think first Nantucket copied the Vineyard, Martha's Vineyard. And this year, I've been on the committee of the selection committee, and you choose, you read a bunch of different books and try to pick something that's a little bit timely. It's a great thing to do. And the way they gather everybody is just to have a week-long thing. So this year it's The Invention of Wings by Sue Monk Kidd, which is really great historical fiction set in Charleston about, it's got abolitionists and women's suffrage, and it's like based on these sisters who, I read the whole novel and had never even heard of the Grimke sisters. And I went to Smith, like I'm a feminist, I was like, I don't know, like who are the Grimke sisters? I didn't know. So that like just lends itself to all kinds of great programming, so that's been fun.
Everyone may know that you initiated a book festival.
Yes. Oh, what a good thing to talk about. Yeah. Who was the very first person?
Yeah. Was that his idea?
No, not his idea. But I'm like, I'm having a book festival in Nantucket. You were. I know. Peter Scott, the very first one. That was awesome. I mean, right? That was very fun. It's annual. Awesome. Oh, good, Jane. Yeah, this will be the 5th year. It's we were lucky again because we had philanthropic support from Wendy Schmidt, and I have to give her a ton of credit. It was a lot of money.
Just remember,
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that I'm trying to, come up with a model that can work in another community, for example. It's a little bit challenging, and it's certainly just because somebody wants you to stay open year round doesn't mean that it's effective, or doesn't mean that you're really having the impact in the community that you'd like to have. I'd like to give free books to the underserved people, but I haven't found a way to quite do that. But the festival is actually one way that we bring authors into the schools. Part of it is because it's so hard to do an event. It's like you guys probably have been to bookstore events, and they can be desperate, situations of, like somebody there, and like, unless they can draw a crowd and have a reason, it can be lonely and just not vibrant enough. And I tried many of those at Bookworks without enough space. And then I had Mitchell's with that cool room, which we configure differently, and I thought this is going to be the deal. And like 3 people show up, nobody leaves their home. I mean, I don't blame them. And I want to be home with my kids. So, it's hard. So I thought, okay, let's channel this. We're going to do a festival once a year. And it's, it's an economic development thing. It's working really well on Nantucket. We have already had the wine festival, the film festival, the whatever. I don't know how many festivals Cleveland is like doing these days, rock and roll probably. But it's really good. It's a great thing. So we started book, this year, we'll have like Sebastian Younger, Diane Rehm is coming, Diane Ackerman. We always have Alice Hoffman.
You have the allure too of a
Not
really
quite,
great
one more year.
location. You have the allure of a really great location.
I know, it's a unique place. It definitely is. It's super lucky.
So you're smart to capitalize on it.
Well, but part of that whole idea, like I started, and I call it the 501c3 we started for it, it's called the Nantucket Book Foundation, because I really wanted it, and I still do want to, have it have like a wider impact, like maybe do more like funding for schools and, at least Boston or something, just somewhere, if not, Thailand or whatever, like the, what's the organization? You guys know, like the guy who wrote the book a few years ago. Anyway, I do want to see how we can draw that wider. That's the thing about what I'm doing with my energy, that it doesn't ripple far enough at this point. So if the book festival is good, it's modeled on a Penn Faulkner thing. We bring a writers to schools like they do in DC, and so that's kind of fun.
Now, for me, the community piece that has worked really well for me so far, my windows. The windows in the store have been a very interesting journey for me. It started about a year ago when I'm on the board at Magnolia Clubhouse down the street here, and they have a resale shop, which for those of you who like resale shops, it's really a nice one. So I approached the gal that runs the store. I said, hey, what do you think if we put your stuff in the window? you know, and we'll sell it out of the window. Oh my God, we sold $1,500 worth of little tchotchkes out of the window.
For them?
To benefit Magnolia. All the
Oh,
sales went
that's
to Magnolia.
cool.
We're gonna have Gathering Place next month, is our window next month, and they will feature vintage finds from their warehouse
Writing
too.
this down, okay.
So, but my window, I don't know what your windows look like, but mine have a little bit of depth, and a lot of people walk by it. And so I've taken that, and I've had a variety of organizations and artists featured in the window, and it has been such fun to work with all these people. And it's one way I felt that we could reach out to the community and be a part of it. So even though I don't have the space for a book group, we do have artist openings as well. We've started featuring artists because there is no art in the neighborhood. We've had Janet Century, who's a photographer. We've had Tim Lachina, who's a photographer. We've had Sharon Grossman, who does ceramics. Anyway, we've done a whole bunch of stuff with artists too, which has really been a lot of fun to promote the talent in the neighborhood. But the windows, it just blew me away. I've got like the Cleveland Heights Bicycle Coalition. My windows are booked through February of next year, which is just amazing.
Wow, and you don't have to do
So
it.
it's been really fun to do that community.
That's cool.
And there's just book.
Oh my God, I just made a little jump here. I'm like, quick, Google. That's Mitchell's, yeah. What's that?
It was.
She's such a great building.
I didn't quite catch the question, but yeah, Mitchell's is tough. It doesn't have the soul and the funkiness that Bookworks has. Like,
You own both, right?
yeah, okay, well, this is sad, but it used to be one-story building, and this past year I've spent all my energy making it a two-story building. So
Okay.
yeah, that was a challenge. It was
Next door to
expensive.
motherhood.
How do you decide what books to purchase for independent books? I mean, obviously,
Ooh, do you do all the front list buying, Lynn?
Do you do a lot of ordering? People come in and say, oh, have you got this book? And you kind of so either to buy a different one or order for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really where the art comes in, like to know how to manage the front list ordering. It's, every season, there's 3 or 4 seasons, depending on the publisher, tons and tons of books, and you have reps that are awesome. Absolutely, customers, word of mouth. I mean, I found some of my very favorite books that way, for sure. If somebody asks for something, you get it in.
I think also too, if you have a good relationship with your book rep, all the publishing houses have book reps that work with bookstores, and some sales reps, like say Penguin, understand your store. Some of them don't, but you get a relationship and they'll say, this will do well for you in the store, try it. Because it's a crapshoot. I mean, you don't really know what's going to be the big book and what's going to be well received. They can steer you. I think I've had great luck working with my sales reps. I had an amazing sales rep, 2 of them at Penguin Random House, that have been helpful to me. Because the demographic in our store is a little younger than it used to be. Used to be an older clientele, it's a little younger now, so they're looking for different things. So they'll say, no, you should try this. And sometimes you have to take a flyer. But it's also going through, and I mean, there are thousands of titles, right? Every season.
What do you think of Goodreads?
Well, Amazon owns it. I used to use it all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, it's sort of, yeah.
And I'm suspicious of a lot of this stuff.
I haven't since they bought it. I kind of stopped. It stinks because everything gets bought up, and then you can't just fight it all. But
You mentioned the library. I mean, the library actually must be quite a big competition for you, what has amazed me is how well the libraries have adapted to the internet age.
do you,
I think.
is anybody involved in libraries?
I hope County Library's done a great job.
Yeah, our library. I mean, I work with them closely and love them, and we're especially on the book festival. But I know that a lot of their circulation is DVDs now. Like that's like a ton, or they seem to have these like All the Light You Cannot See, the biggest, hottest book. It's in hardcover, and there's like an 82-week waiting list. I'm like, what? Why can't you just get more? Like that's the book people want. You're complaining about the DVDs, but nothing again. Libraries are awesome. The more, the better. I mean, the more robust community libraries in this country, the better it will be.
With regard to book clubs, I think.
See, they encourage people to read, so I think it's a compliment.
Oh,
I don't think it's
absolutely.
competitive
Oh, yeah.
at all. I think it's complimentary.
Yes, no. Yeah, not competition. I mean, that's a losing way to look at pretty much, you know. And then the same with Amazon. Like, I don't focus on what they're doing. We're doing something different, better, and whatever. I do focus on the government, like I just said. I'm having to go after that. But, people behavior is understandable. It's human nature. We're going to do what makes sense for us, for the consumer. You can't fight that too much. You do try to educate and say, like, I've heard a local store, what is it, 47 cents on the dollar comes back locally, whereas online it's 13 cents or something. And that starts to add up. So everyone's intuitively getting it. I mean, educated people, but, with the luxury to think that way, it won't solve, the world. So, I did have one comment, like just at the publishing level, it's interesting because consolidation that's happening across all industries. It's a little interesting because Penguin and Random House did just combine, as Lynn referenced, and they're the two biggest. So between them,
They are a
behemoth. So about 60%, if you have a new bookstore, it's about 60% coming from Penguin Random now. The good news is they have like great dating and extended terms, so they're like really doing a great job for bookstores. And the other thing is they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in rapid fulfillment in the last couple of years. So they've built huge new warehouses when that was a counterintuitive move a couple of years ago. So there's like, like as much as you're like, oh, it's going one direction, it's like actually cool, like in Indiana, they're gonna get the books out and they ship 2 days in the holidays.
I think they're
They're an
exceptionally good. I think they're exceptionally good. Some of
That's
the
why
others,
they're-
like McMillan, they're not quite as good. They're okay.
But it helps, and it gives
Awesome.
Yeah.
A 2-day turnaround at Christmas, if you call with them, we get a better discount on the business side. We get a better discount if we buy directly from the publisher. So it benefits us to order from them directly rather than going through a wholesaler. And that's where you come in and say, oh, I want this book from 2002 and I don't have it on the shelf. I have to go to a wholesaler for it. The discount that we get from the wholesaler, to explain the business side, is not as good as the discount from the publisher. So at Christmas, it benefited me tremendously. The Penguin Random 2-day turnaround. That is huge.
huge.
Absolutely huge. And at Christmas, you'd be like, okay.
Used to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When I started in this,
It was huge.
however many years.
It helps their business too, and it's certainly helped mine. Huge.
How are you trying to read all these books?
We don't.
Fake it.
People come in the store and say, have you read every book in the store? I'm like, are you crazy? I mean, you have to
I
pick
just
and
say
choose.
yes.
You have to pick and choose what you read. Like right now, I'm reading City on Fire, which is a
tried
900. Which is did you read it?
Tried it. I didn't get very far. You'll have to tell me how.
I like it.
I like the
except for
beginning.
It's 900 pages long. So, you
like,
try to pick up something else in between. It's just, instead of watching TV after dinner, you read. I mean, I do. I don't know. It's hard to keep up with it because there's thousands and thousands of titles that are coming out. So we do the best we can, and it's word of mouth too. Other people read things, they come and they tell us about them, so we take input. Can't read it all.
Right.
So is this nonprofit profit model, that's pretty unique, I would think.
Nonprofit is, let's see, there are some stores that tried to turn their whole store into a nonprofit, and that, I think in Buffalo and maybe one in Ann Arbor, it hasn't really worked. I know the Ann Arbor one closed. Right now, the small is just the Book Festival that's operating in the nonprofit thing, but I do have visions of trying to, when you're sort of idealistic, you think a co-op might work and a big group is going to work, and then you get involved with groups and you're like, ooh.
What did you mean by your comment that Google supporting you?
A philanthropist on Nantucket,
What was that?
Wendy Schmidt, Eric Schmidt's wife, they just came to Nantucket, loved it, and fell in love and wanted to keep it strong and supporting it in different creative ways. So she started a music center. What else? Very fundamental in restoring this big theater. I mean, all the price tags on this stuff are crazy. These historic buildings, and just whatever reason, it's just crazy money. But the bookstore was one of them. So when I still owned Bookworks, the cute little rotten building, she was, she bought Mitchell's and poured, $1 million into whatever and made it strong. And so then we had competition. But the problem was suddenly then And you guys who've been longtime Nantucketers can speak from your perspective. From my perspective, I was really threatened, and I was like, oh my God, and whatever. So it made me work harder, of course, which is a good thing.
Threatened by.
Threatened by the fact that all this money was being invested. It was going to be awesome when it reopened. And as it turned out, like bringing it up to code, it didn't quite, really the magic in that store was a longtime bookseller. It was a person. It was this woman named Amy Beeman, and she was like kind of large and smoked and would tell you, you need to read this book, this book, this book, And she was awesome. Like, I loved her. In fact, like, they let me, when I was throwing, this is good, ML, I was like throwing a party for ML one time, and what's her name? The famous Martha Stewart. That book came out. Martha Stewart's entertaining, and I was working at the farm, had no money. I walked in and I was like, oh, I'd really like this. And Mimi let me take it home because she knew I worked on the farm truck outside and I could just have it. And I was like, I'll pay you tomorrow. She's like, I know you will. And I was like, why was that such a big deal to me? I don't know. It was not something I'd really experienced in Cleveland, in a sort of less personal place. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with living in a small town like that, because like, take the book home. I'm like, cool. I made some hors d'oeuvres for you. So long ago. But, like, I don't know, just that the personal thing was really, really the magic there. And then when they changed the building, it just turned out not to be a thing. Like, it was just not quite as good. We had an elevator, and then it's just more open. It's hard to make it have the feng shui feel that you want. And like, I've given talks on this, that you can either have I bet Lynn, I bet you're a pretty good directed sale kind of bookseller. Like, you should read this, and yeah, because you're physically in the store and you're whatever. My strength was more put cool stuff in the store, and I'm going to come to Cleveland and talk about this, and I'm going to be going somewhere else. I'm going to sell some beer. Like, I'm not always there, so the place had to carry it a little bit more, or like all that civic engagement that I talked about, like that was another reason to support it. So it's kind of, I got off the topic of the nonprofit. I don't know if philanthropic support of a town is a long-term answer, I guess. I'd like it to be. There's other models I've looked at, like business improvement districts can own real estate, and, I've heard about communities that get like a REIT together and do something, and that might have potential, but.
Aren't you providing really important places for especially the winter community to go and just be in a bookstore?
I hope so. What I see is less people coming, and that's distressing in the wintertime. Like, when I first was at Bookworks starting in 1995, I started working there, and we were open till 10 p.m. from May until New Year's, and then until 6 or 8 the other nights. It was busy enough, and people were there, and it felt more vibrant, and it just, for whatever reason, the culture, it's like we're getting less people, and that's a bummer,
Well,
we try.
Because the winter residents don't read as much and have as much money.
I don't know. I think part of it, like, the books at a certain price do become a luxury, and so a lot of Islanders.
Streaming at home.
I think they are too. I think people's leisure time, now there's the internet. Like, that wasn't a thing in 95. Everything's different. So you try to create community, but to land on the thing that's going to really get people out is tricky. Yeah.
You're competing with Downton Abbey.
Yeah, I guess I put less emphasis on trying to get people there in the store. I think my current thought is just maybe as the ABA or whatever, like, we need to just remind people how important and how gratifying reading is for your life. And it's like, it's so many levels. It can be entertainment, but more often it's the opposite. It's like enriching your human experience, and just, like, self-development on any level you can name. It's, there's something good to be brought out. And I think we're forgetting that. Like, I think culturally it's just becoming more, I don't know, less important than reading books is a little less. So I brought you all here tonight so you can help me solve that. Like, how are we going to turn that ship around? I don't know.
You try the coffee house model?
Yeah, I just put a whole coffee house in there, and man, I shouldn't have done that. That was a lot of money. Health department said, Wendy, you'll never get that back, and then Pig found it, right? But we'll see. Yeah. Yes.
I try to go to independent bookstores when I travel.
Yay.
And I found that the most successful ones have always seem to be in resort type areas.
Mm-hmm.
Like There's a phenomenal one in Bellingham, Washington.
Oh, Village Books.
2 hours.
Chuck, one of my other
Yeah.
Karas members, actually.
It was just so fun and so interesting. You know, like in San Francisco, there's City Lights, and you know, we were down in Hawken, there's a really terrific, you know, local bookstore.
I know that
it
one.
seems that people when they're, you know, on vacation tend to enjoy, you know.
It's very
you know,
true.
bookstores and stuff.
Well, I was just gonna say, I have a place in Florida, and the bookstore in Fernandina Beach, I would love to own that because it's got great potential, and boy, they're not doing anything. And that's a really nice resort town. I mean, Fernandina Beach, Amelia Island is a nice resort town, and I think they have 2 crappy bookstores. Totally crappy. So that's probably.
Yeah,
the
they're not all good.
exception to the rule. Well, it's the exception to the rule.
Yeah. Maybe it is the leisure time thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's
Yeah.
interesting that I read one of those articles you sent out was about the growth of independent stores, and that there are actually more now opening than one would think. And I wonder if that's sort of related to, you know, it seems there's this whole movement to sort of eat local and go local and cash mobs and sort of these groups that are supporting local businesses. And it seems that one way to do that would certainly be your local bookstores and places where you can put your money to keep it in the community. And it just, I was interested that there were more I mean, that article was sort of like, well, I didn't realize that there were more independent bookstores growing. And it made me feel good. As I look.
Yeah, there definitely, I don't have the statistics at hand, but like there've been about 500 new members of the ABA just in the last couple years, which is a great trend. It's reversing, you know, it's doing that. And the new ones that are opening are great. Like they're really hip and cool and they just feel right, you know, and they're vibrant and tend to be really young people with great ideas. And, you know, rather, because, you know, the old kind of stale, dusty thing, it doesn't feel relevant, you know. So, yeah, tell bookstore people to dust and it helps them. Yeah, you see less and less of that. I mean, it is pretty interesting. I don't know who all saw the thing about Amazon's now going to be opening bookstores today. Like Jane sent out that article today. Yeah, that was
a great article.
Yeah, I've been looking at that lately, and then in Publishers Weekly today, you know, it's like Amazon's hiring booksellers, and I'm like, oh man, if we see any names we know, those people are going to get the tisk.
Maybe more than that.
In the San Jose area, I'm like, okay, who, you know. But of course, I say that tongue in cheek because you just, you know, you wish everyone the best in an individual level. But but I, you know, I don't know. It's ironic that Amazon's going to open little bookstores. Like, why would they bother?
But they did say in that article, talking about the use of big data.
Yeah.
And tracking everyone's mega trend in terms of what they're reading, what's popular, and that's going to be part of their strategy for the success. It just rings hollow with what you said. People come in, part of the reason they go to the small bookstore is to understand what should I read.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in and you say to a bookseller, and they say, what do you like? And I say, I read nothing but biography, but I've always wanted to read a mystery, and what should I start with? Amazon's not going to crack that equation. Maybe they will, but I'm skeptical about their ability to do that. I guess in turn, the question is, are either of you looking at, and there's the New York Times bestseller list, but apart from that, do you use trends and popularity to guide a big part of your front list? Or is it more just sort of a piece you have to have, the top 10 books, and then everything else is more by your own perspective?
It's a good question. I think the ones that the breakaway books, there's again, the independents have groups of readers. They do like an Indies Introduce program. And so you'll know, okay, like these are the 30 books that they just chose. And I was just at that, you know, presentation last week. Okay, I got the list. And so, you know, you'll see, and that Indies Introduce, I did put on that one book on the list, the Readers of Broken Wheel recommend. And I brought a stack of the little thing, the month of January thing that I meant to bring, and I left it in my luggage back at the house, swing by the Harper's a little later. We'll give you one. No, but Lynn has them in her store. And I had started that book. I was slightly disappointed. Usually the books that make it onto that thing are like really awesome choices because they've been vetted by a lot of independents and they vote them. And so you can trust that as like a sort of an indie source for, you know, the bigger kind of group, you know, collected data. That one, it's a cute book, but it's not quite as, you know, I did like the Thickery one better. And that little Parnassus on Wheels is the cutest ever. But
Is that Nantucket?
Thickery, it's kind of a blend of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket. Yeah,
It's a great book.
that is a good one.
You know, I was going to comment on that. I think, you know, when we buy books, you have to keep your clientele in mind. For instance, in our store, we sell a lot of biography. We sell a lot of science because we have a lot of doctors who live in the neighborhood. You know, out in Chagrin, I can't imagine they would sell a whole lot of science. I think, well, well, no, I just,
Yeah, wait a minute.
I just don't think so.
I know, I'm kidding you. I'm kidding you.
Yeah. Don't go there anymore. So I think you have to keep your customer base in mind, but sometimes you do have to take a risk. You have to say, like, you have to listen to the rep who says to you, this is a really great book. And I will say, I went to one. I had not seen this in the list of books. It's a very interesting sort of graphic novel format about weather called Thunder and Lightning. And it was one of Random House's big picks for the year at the Great Lake Bookselling Association meeting. I had totally overlooked it in the thousands of titles that I was looking at for Christmas. And when they held the book up, I'm like, oh, I have to have that. I absolutely have to have that book. And I sold 5 of them. For our store, that's a lot. I will say Anthony Doerr was probably our all-time highest seller ever. If I told the previous owner how many we had sold, she would never in a million years believe me. So yeah, we have to have some of the runaway bestsellers, but I do not have a New York Times bestseller section. And I never will, because the previous owner, it's sort of my ode to Jane Kessler. She didn't believe in it because she thought that a lot of those books were crap. And so we have a staff pick section that we have, but we do not have a New York Times bestseller section. Do I have some of the New York Times bestsellers? Yes, but there are a lot I don't have either. I mean, I can.
So you don't try and take advantage of, I mean, just to use another perhaps mass market example, the Oprah Book Club. She picks a book out and holds it up on her show, and then the next
You have to
thing you know,
have one probably because somebody will come in and ask for it.
So.
It doesn't matter.
Oprah has historically really good taste. She doesn't do it too often.
She used to do it.
Yeah. That was definitely
I've
huge.
watched her show.
Colbert bump, that's a big,
It was great for reading too. She got a lot of people reading.
she's got tons of people reading.
Right,
Yeah.
that's true.
She got a lot of people
Yeah.
reading because of that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, now, what was that book she came out with last year, that little Oprah guide to something? I'm like, oh, please. I mean, I just, you have to have one because somebody will come in. But I think
That's the truth.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it depends upon your customer base. I really do.
Do the publishers allow you to return the books you don't sell?
Yes, if you have a returnable account. You have,
Oh,
there are a
wow.
couple
That's
of,
how it works. That's how the whole
well,
thing
not
works.
everybody, no, it's a great question, Jane, actually.
Yeah.
Not everybody has returnable accounts. I don't know why they don't, but the publishers, if you have a returnable account, you can return. I'll tell you something, if I couldn't return, you couldn't walk in my store.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or you'd order one
I
instead
never
of
thought
5,
about
you
that.
know? Yeah, that's how the whole
Huh.
thing works. It's, and you can choose, like you can choose which publishers, like maybe a Workman or a Chronicle that are kind of like pretty, you know, you're never going to hardly ever return to them, and then you can get another 10%, you know.
You know, like the
benefit.
other day, I bought a whole bunch of stuff from Chronicle. They had a great deal going. It's an amazing discount, so I bought it.
They do pretty cookbooks and
Yeah, we sell a lot of their kids stuff actually.
Yeah,
too.
tons of kids.
Sell a lot of their kids stuff, and sold even more of it this past year because the kids section's a little better. But yeah, if you don't sell, my philosophy is if I've had it on the shelf for at least a year and I haven't sold it, it's out of there unless it's a great book.
a year. Woo.
Well, my store's really small.
Yeah.
If I didn't, where would I couldn't move.
No, that's fat. That's a long time, I'm saying.
That is a long time.
That's a long time. Hardcover for me, if it's 6 months, it's
Hardcover
gone.
is 6 months.
Yeah.
Paperback, it's a year. But yeah, and some things are returnable too, like some of the paper products you see in the stores are returnable too. If you buy your calendars on a returnable account, you can return them too. Suppose you get, I mean, you could get stuck with like 60 calendars, what are you gonna do? So when
You
you buy
usually take about a 10% hit, and also then the freight is usually around 10%. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, hopefully better than that, but it's not like it's like free.
dicey, right?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely still need to manage it pretty well.
Yeah. Inventory control is, I think, critical, absolutely critical.
You know, when you talk about fostering the value of reading and how, you know, it's something more than entertainment and enrichment, and I think about, you know, and you talked about how influential Peter was in your life, and I mean, saying in my life in terms of, you know, reading at an early age and being read to at an early age, and I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old, my grandmother reading me, you know, Hawken and Tom Sawyer, and I'm just wondering now and Scott, maybe you can address this, what are the trends in reading in younger children today and as they're coming up through high school? I mean, I mean, my kids are 7, 9, and 11, and I mean, they're, you know, reading different things, but I mean, it strikes me as like, are they still reading Shakespeare? Are they still reading, you know, classics? What are the trends that you see?
I'm sure it's terribly different. I think for the younger kids, we just want them to read, and we want them to be read to. There's a lot of research that supports the value of children being read to, particularly when they're younger. You know, you can read relatively sophisticated books to relatively young children when they're read to, because of course that prompts questions. Well, what does that mean? And I don't understand. And so I think encouraging parents to read to their children and to make it an activity that's memorable, to form a connection, the relationship between someone who loves you and the act of reading to them. So I think for the little ones, you know, we encourage the homework is to read your kid every night, at least 20 minutes. And so as they get older, they get to have some choice and they pick their own things. And so they're into baseball, they can read baseball book after baseball book after baseball book. It's okay because the passion for reading and the ability to go into another world is so I don't think it's that different. You know, Peter knows his colleagues are still carrying on the tradition of trying to get kids to read deeply with passion and meaning and to find personal connection to the things that they read. I will say if there's a negative trend, I would say it's in the pernicious impact of the selective college admission process on leaving kids time and space to read for pleasure. Our high school kids don't have time to read for pleasure, and that's a sad thing. I'm not sure high school kids ever have that much time to read for pleasure, but the hamster wheel that our high school kids are on right now, sort of driven by the college selection process, is moving past the point of unhealthy action. The good news is the colleges are starting to make noises about recognizing that and doing something. But there's usually a big gap between when they make noises about doing something about it and when they actually start doing something about it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
So traditionally, for this group, we stop after an hour. That doesn't mean you have to leave. That doesn't mean you have to stop talking, but that does mean if you're going to the symphony, now's the time to get out. If you're hungry, now's the time to go back here.
Symphony.
But yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Lynn.
Peter, this was a great opportunity to see this beautiful house too. I mean, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
I know, it's very cool.
Do you want Yes, I do. I'm gonna call her actually. Yes. You're yes. Yes. She's on my list.
Thanks, folks.
She's on my list.
Thanks. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions or ideas, I'm all ears. Come find me. That was fast. That was all done already.
I think a projector bulb went out at the time.